The blue car is Tom Peck. Yes, they're 4 wide at New Hampshire International. On the inside of that 4 wide battle is going to be Kenny Wallace as he's going to come up with the spot. One car stuffed to the outside there, gets rustled up a bit, and Ricky Craven hits Bobby Labonte. 4 cars go smashing, and Labonte is on his roof, flipping back over. And it looks like 8 cars are in it in turn 2. That is Labonte, certainly the most severely damaged of the bunch. Car number 28, Ricky Craven, did not come up to speed in the middle of turn 2. There's Craven's car in blue going very slow. He's getting passed by just about everybody, and he loses it.
Yeah, he cuts right down into Bobby Labonte. Bobby hit him with the right front and just turned him right up on the roof, just all at once. You see the other cars there, just victims of circumstance. You saw Dale Jarrett, Morgan Shepherd. There's the 25 car of Hensley was involved in it. Morgan Shepherd. See Labonte's car just continuing to roll over. It's just one of those unfortunate things. When we restart, everybody's all bunched up, jammed together. When something happens, it triggers a chain reaction collision.
Great testimony to the safety of the roll cages in these cars. You see a lot of damage, but not to the cockpit area of Bobby Labonte's car.
Blocks the move. Earnhardt goes up the banking a bit. Now right behind them, Dale Jarrett's on the move. To the inside of Michael Waltrip he goes, and Sterling Martin comes by. Michael Waltrip breaks loose. Off turn 2, the car goes spinning down to the inside. Rusty Wallace flips 1, 2, 3 times. The car turns gyrations down the back straightaway, still spinning. Finally coming to a rest about halfway down the back straightaway. The cars involved Michael Waltrip down to the inside. Derek Cope involved, and Rusty Wallace badly mangled Pontiac here on the back straightaway.
Rusty Wallace's car got off in the grass and dug into the sand apparently, and went end over end at least 4 or 5 times. Sheet metal flies everywhere. The car has come to rest out on the apron of the racetrack, and the safety crews are there immediately. Let's go back to the backstretch.
Rusty Wallace's car again about halfway down the back straightaway. One of the wildest rides we've seen in a long time. It looks similar to the situation yesterday in the Busch Grand National race when Todd Bodine's car broke loose. It looked like he gathered it back in. In this case, it was Michael Waltrip's car that broke loose. Looks like he had it gathered back in, but just off the corner, the rear end began to come around. When it did, it collected all these other cars, and of course they dove to the inside to get away. Derek Cope moved down to the inside and rolled over to the berm here that separates the racetrack from Lake Lloyd. His car there being attended to by safety personnel.
By far the most spectacular victim of that rough Bristol surface was Rusty Wallace, who cut a tire in just 3 laps of practice and took this wild ride. Now, this kind of barrel roll is usually associated with super speedways. Doctors made Rusty stay in the hospital Friday night, but he was the first driver at the track on Saturday.
It was a pretty scary moment. I never thought you could flip 6 times on a half-mile track, but that just goes to show you how fast Bristol is and what type of forces you really do have in this corner.
Jimmy Spencer is second. They come through the tri-oval. Checkered is waving. Ernie Irvin wins, and Rusty spins and gets airborne and flips wildly right at the start-finish line. Very reminiscent of his accident at Daytona. What a way.
Yeah, he's moving. I see him moving around in the car. I saw it there. We see his head moving around.
Yes, we do.
Thank God.
Now here is what happened.
Okay, there's Rusty and Dale Jarrett running side by side. Earnhardt comes down on the inside trying to draft Rusty and go right out the picture, and it looks, there he is. Earnhardt right up on the back bumper of Rusty, and he does touch him.
That's
and
why
around he goes. And that's one reason that Dale Earnhardt went down there.
That's why he was so concerned, because he touched Rusty Wallace to start this situation, it looks like.
And the car overturns about 6 or 7 times, pirouetting on its nose, end over end, side over side, comes to a rest on its wheels between the start-finish line and turn 1.
Black flag, they say, consultation flag maybe coming out. We've got another terrible crash. A serious crash again, and turn number 2 has claimed another victim, and there are still cars spinning and crashing. Car number 51 being torn up was Lenny Pond of Ettrick, Virginia. Back to the line they come with car number 75. Bonnet leading it to the back to the line as they race to the flag. Turn 2. Is there contact? Car starts to drift and go away. It may have been collected by Rick Wilson.
I think he just got tagged at the back there. The windscreen pops out there. Richard Petty just misses it.
Windshield comes out of the car.
As it goes backwards, it lifts the back of the car up.
And he's floating backwards through the air, similar to what we saw Johnny Anderson do a few years ago.
And also Connie Saylor. What happens is, of course, these cars have quite a bit of rake from the front. They're much lower at the front than the back, and when it turned round and went down the road backwards, the air got under the air gets under the trunk and just lifted it up.
Now from another angle, here is another angle of what happened. You can see him sliding in and getting caught and flipping backwards, upside down, and then those hard, nasty, sidewinding rolls that bite you.
I was deciding, well, man, do I need to just stop this stuff and go get a job and quit worrying about it? Didn't seem like we were going anywhere.
I didn't think he'd ever make it. I was watching him in Will Cronkite's car in Atlanta, and he turned over in the infield. I remember saying, if that kid ever makes it right there, the woods are full of them.
One of the defining moments was at Atlanta when he went over, knocked himself out, and he got out and he was looking for a ride by the end of the day.
He did not want to go back to the dirt tracks. He wanted to stay in NASCAR and Winston Cup racing. Yeah, he was out of control, but desperate people will do desperate things.
Meanwhile, up in front, look at Earnhardt, and remember that some 3 days before this event, he was end for end all the way to the Tri-Oval in a practice run. Here he is right back. Talk about an Iron Man.
Earnhardt is showing no effects from that crash he had Wednesday morning in his sportsman car where he got upside down at the start-finish line. He's out there in front.
Tore down almost 100 feet of fence right here coming out of the Tri-Oval, did Earnhardt. He said, I just pulled my neck down into my shoulders because I knew it was going for a ride. And they said to him, how many times did you roll? He said, it was so exciting I didn't have time to count. Here comes Davey Allison down to the bottom of the racetrack.
Well, they were spraying water in the car. I'll tell you, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But when you do that in a hot car...
Oh, we've got trouble in turn one. Look at that, 2 automobiles. That's Dale Earnhardt in the Wrangler jeans machine. As you can see, oil pouring out of the rear of that car. Earnhardt got into it with Tim Richmond in the Stacy pack number 2. Earnhardt upside down, and we'll watch it on the instant replay from our Mizzlou cameras. Here's Earnhardt coming up behind Richmond. Earnhardt clips Richmond in the left rear quarter, kicks the deuce sideways. We see parts starting to fly. Richmond sliding sideways. Earnhardt goes right to the top of the track. He'll slam the wall here, and look at that. Earnhardt close to going out of the ballpark there because the 15 goes high in the air.
Well, it's about as close as you can get from going over the wall. And I'll tell you, the thing just got hung up in there and just flipped right up on its top. I'll tell you, that brings back old memories, man.
A rough ride indeed for Dale Earnhardt, the Wrangler jeans machine, as well as the Richmond car. Safety crews on the speedway, the Pocono track crews getting there very quickly to see if Earnhardt is okay, and we'll wait a moment as they help him unbuckle and get set to climb out of the car as we see the 15 sliding to a stop on the instant replay.
Earnhardt on the inside and Sterling Marlin outside.
And Ernie going with Earnhardt down on the inside. That's going to hit. Oh, he got trouble.
Terrible crash. Front of the field all torn up. Earnhardt's number 3. Head on into the wall at 190 miles an hour.
He almost got upside down. That car got very high off the ground.
And they're going to cut him out of the car. And Earnhardt is on his feet. Dale Earnhardt attempting to walk to the ambulance. Never, never doubt that cliche about Dale Earnhardt. One tough customer gives the thumbs up as he walks away from one of the worst incidents in his racing career.
That's why he's doing what he's doing. He's just mirror driving all over the racetrack.
Oh, trouble. Elliott Sadler over 1.5 and on his roof. Now the car tumbling hard onto the pavement in turn 3. Caution is out. A terrible crash.
Could be.
Yeah, could be.
He could be trying to dodge that 8 car.
Car flew in the air a long ways before it hit anything.
And now the banking kicks the car back to the left.
You see the contact, yeah.
And there you see the car.
And there he makes contact. He comes down trying to get in front of Kurt Busch. They make contact. Watch that thing fly. And there it lands on that road you talked about.
And then when it gets onto the racetrack again, takes another nasty flip. Watch this hit.
That's the hard one right here.
Oh, man.
Oh, they all look pretty hard.
Yeah, they do. I don't want to be in there in any of them. Man.
And like I said, that car really held up well.
Where his father won 10 times.
Oh, we got a car sideways in the trail.
And somebody upside down. Elliott Sadler
Again.
lands on his wheels.
At Talladega, the funny thing about Elliott's second big wreck there was the fact that he landed on all 4 wheels. And when does that ever happen in NASCAR?
I saw a car gets turned sideways and looked and upside down and flipping up in the air, and I was on the racetrack and I drove right underneath him. I saw all the M&M's characters and I saw him kind of looking down as I went under.
The whole time. There's Elliott Sadler.
He's all right, guys. He's out.
He has a flair for the dramatic.
Finished 22nd, probably a blessing. I really didn't want to do it on my roof, but that's probably, y'all have some cool highlights in there. But I want to tell my mom and dad and everybody at home I am okay. It wasn't half as bad as last year.
After that, his crew chief, Todd Parrott, thought it would be funny for the following race to put a little sticker on his dashboard. He said, keep 4 wheels on the ground.
All right, it is a magnificent chess game that is being played here. Oh, trouble! Ricky Rudd slamming toward the wall. Crashing, rolling over, side over side. Ricky Rudd, Ford automobile, out of control. Side over side several times. Lands in the grass just at the top of pit road. The Budmore car destroyed. You're watching live from the Daytona International Speedway, the Busch Clash of '84. The most serious crash in the 6-year history of this event has just taken place.
He might have touched him, but sometimes, because of the compression of the air, here you see Rudd's car turning back the wrong way as it slid. The air got under it, flipped it back the wrong way. I think that it was a blessing that it didn't get into that wall, Ken. It started spinning away from him, just like a bucking horse, going in every kind of a direction. And, of course, Ricky holding on.
Jarrett to the outside. All that skirmishing left a clear path for Jarrett on the outside.
Oh, trouble.
Rudd in the wall, hard. Schrader in the wall, hard. Jarrett the winner. Gordon second. And Rudd on his roof for the second time in the Bud shootout. Reminiscent of 1984 when his car tumbled in the air. Ricky Rudd, Bobby Labonte wrecked on the final lap. Ken Schrader wrecked. That's Rudd on the bottom in the black car.
Bobby Labonte in the green car on the outside gets touched right there. You see him get crossed up and across into Rudd, turns him sideways. See Sterling Marlin, he makes evasive action there. He was also involved in that.
And all 3 drivers are now just passengers.
They've got Bobby Allison posted as winning the race right now.
I thought so, Keith. I thought he was only 1 lap down.
Well, that's a complete redo, Mike. That has to be a redo right there.
Look.
Car number 90 turning and flipping, going into the wall, and that takes out at least 3 other cars. He looked like a tire might have blown as they came down for the finish line, and Ken Schrader's automobile gets sideways and turns over and comes sliding on its top.
To get him up in the top 10. Oh, another other car up on the wall here is Ken Schrader. Just like the one car.
Oh, he
stays on the roof.
Yeah. Steve Park landed on all fours, but Schrader is upside down in exactly the same area of the racetrack that Steve Park had his crash early on. Schrader saying, boy, did I do that?
He said, wow.
Let's take a look at it. Again, it's just about the same type of crash. He goes over once, 1.5 times, and then rolls back on the hood.
Looked like he was going to roll on the wheels, and all of a sudden, whoa, he's going to go down and talk to somebody. No, guess he just running across the racetrack.
Maybe looking for somebody, but I think he's more interested in.
He was in the thing. You know, remember a few moments ago when we saw those cars passing Bobby Hamilton down in turn 11, there were a lot of cars that were running awfully close together there, but we didn't see him make a gesture. All those cars have gone by.
Just about like running an event in a pizza oven, and there's
a spin. There's trouble.
Car upside down. Schrader. Schrader's number 25, side over side, end over end. Another car in trouble and also getting airborne.
Terry Labonte is involved. His car spinning around on the grass. There is Elton Sawyer spinning around. Rusty Wallace there. There's Lake Speed. There's Rick Mask.
Bobby Labonte is up against the wall. This is in slow motion.
Okay, there's Schrader up on the outside. And you can see him make contact right there and spins Schrader around. Gordon goes on. Apparently no harm done to his car.
Jeremy Mayfield giving us these pictures.
And there they're wrecking in front of them, and he hits Bobby Labonte right there. Just gives him a little bit of a tap as we see Schrader's car going up in the air, and it spins Bobby right into the outside wall.
Hey, Bobby ran into the 41 car. Here's another angle.
You can see it had already started to happen there.
Craven coming around and spinning the 41. Mayfield, you see he has bounced off the 18 in Schrader's car. So there's no place for those other cars to go.
Kenny Schrader is okay, climbed out of his car unhurt, and I tell you that first because when you see the video, you'll wonder how.
Gets around right there going down into turn 1. Could be a nut. Oh my goodness. Upside down.
You're
over.
internet corner at almost 200 miles per hour.
That had to be quite a ride right there. Got to believe something's happened back here. My goodness, boy. Does that not tell you how fast you're going?
Yeah, I think right now, Chris, when you watch and see this accident, you'll understand right now what NASCAR's been trying to drive home. As Kenny Schrader's car gets around right there, he gets in the wall, the car comes up and over, does a barrel roll, slides down the wall, comes to rest, and all of a sudden, because of how bad the car is damaged in the back, fuel cell erupted. Big fire. If you'll notice, all of a sudden, Kenny's already dropped the window net.
Right.
That means he must have been really, understanding what was going on at that time. He was getting ready to get out of the race car. If you watch just a second, you'll see Kenny. He'll get himself out of the car.
Ken Schrader feeling more heat than Martha Stewart.
Exactly right. You'll see right there he starts to come up out of the car. Still got his Hans device on. You can see him walking away from the race car.
He's okay physically.
He's okay there physically. Again, the head and neck restraint, the way these seats are put together, you see Kenny, he's a little bit frustrated right there. He's ripping some of the radio cords loose. Sometimes that does give you a problem when you're in a hurry trying to get loose. But because of the helmet, the fire suit, and everything went along
with it. Look how quickly the crew got there.
The fireman got there to knock the fire down.
And we have a car into the tire barriers. That's Steve Park. This is at the exit of turn number 2.
I think that's where Richard Petty hit the wall here a few years ago.
It sure is. Yep, it's a full course caution. First time this afternoon. Comes on lap number 25. Ooh, Park is way up on the tires and the barriers. John Kernan has a report.
Look here what happened. Steve Park is going to come to watch as he backs in the fence.
Overturns completely in the air, comes down on all 4.
Looks like those guys at the X Games, the way they do those skates. Wow.
Man, oh man.
Well,
we talk about the X Games, that's when racing turns into an extreme sport. We just hope that Steve is okay. They're talking with him, and he's moving around inside. He's taking the helmet off, so that is good news. But what a scary ride for Steve Park.
There he comes out. Okay, that's great. Come out of there.
He thought to put his Pennzoil hat on, that's for sure. Man, but how frustrated is he right now?
Down on the bottom, I think, going through one on the first lap, you certainly don't want to make it 3 wide, but everybody looks like they're behave themselves so far anyway, but you still got to get through 2 and 3 on the first lap.
Ricky Rudd gets the jump. He's the early leader. Oh, trouble! Steve Park is off into the infield. Another car involved. Over on his lid, it's Parkindale Jr. Terrible crash.
Man, Steve Park's car just turned dead left when he came off turn 2. Junior's running to see his teammate and see if he's okay.
And getting off into that wet grass wasn't going to do anything to slow those cars down. Caution is out. Ricky Rudd will lead the field back to the yellow. You can see Park moving inside the car, looking through the back glass. He's trying to get himself unwrapped around the roll bars to get out.
Yeah, he's definitely moving in there. That's a great sign.
The car hit that inside guardrail, which is a guardrail instead of a wall. And Rusty Wallace got a piece of it.
And we saw Rusty make it 3 wide going in turn 1, but as he entered turn 1, it looks like it slowed down and everything was under control.
Boy, you see that guardrail? They have flattened that guardrail inside that straightaway.
But once again, they talk about safer walls, and NASCAR and some folks at the University of Nebraska are working on making a softer wall and a safer wall. And what they're talking about is a wall like that that gives on impact rather than just sits there and makes the car and driver absorb all the energy.
Safety workers still there around the number 1 car. Of course, Steve has suffered 2 serious injuries back in March of '98 when he had that terrible crash at Atlanta that broke his leg and left him out for months, and then the crash at Darlington last Labor Day weekend in the Busch Series car, that strange crash when the steering wheel, it's suspected, came off in Steve's hands.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. still there.
And it's real easy, especially on the first lap coming out of 1. You know, you got cars 2 and 3 abreast, and if you slide up the racetrack, what we talked about earlier,
There's
Benny,
Steve coming out of there.
There he is.
There we go.
Good sign.
That's what we wanted to see.
Anyways, what happens is you slide up the racetrack, and you can hit somebody in their left rear as you slide up the racetrack with your right front. And that's almost what it looked like. That one car just turned dead sideways.
Well, what a great shot that is. Teammates walking away from a crash like that, arm in arm.
We see the Jimmy Johnson car, and there's Rusty Wallace. You see Park trying to squeeze up the outside.
I see he was trying to go on the outside of Rusty. Rusty moves up, they make contact, and Junior gets under the 1 car and just kind of bulldozed him into the wall and over.
Yeah, that's what actually turned him even more sideways. But I'll tell you what, that guardrail did the job.
Oh, it did a great job.
Took a lot of, that absorbed a lot of impact right there.
What's a yellow car back there? Just turn left.
And when you hit wet grass, it feels like you pick up 200 mile an hour.
But you can see how that barrier gave way when
Absolutely.
that car
That barrier absorbed a lot of energy, and I'll tell you what, that nice to see happen, because if that were a concrete wall, he would have taken a much harder hit.
One more shot. Rusty's right in the middle of the racetrack. Steve Park's going down the outside, but Rusty decides to come up to the outside line, not realizing that Steve was there. They made contact, and the ride is on.
Look at that barrier give. Thank goodness.
But again, that's one reason that Steve was able to walk away arm in arm with Dale Earnhardt Jr. because of that wall that did give.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
And you know, the spotters on the roof here at Pocono are a long way away from where Rusty Wallace and Steve Park were racing over there. And it could be hard for that spotter to call Rusty clear. You know, maybe he did call Rusty clear. it's hard to, you know, but it's a difficult angle and a long way away from here at the start-finish line.
Yeah, that's an extremely tough call. You're right, Alan. This place, you have to look a mile away to see what's going on. So a lot of the driver has to really, he really has to pay attention out there.